Hooty, hooty, hooty.
So hello and welcome to the Andre Show again. Morioka, hi. What to be prepared for and what are the realities, fortuitous teachers, of being in a Japanese high school? I was fortunate enough to be placed in what I could safely say was one of the better schools in the area. In fact, it was one of the top 2 schools in the whole of Morioka. So I was quite pleased, yes. Situated in what could be seen as idyllic surroundings, mountains and nice little houses, the school housed around maybe 900 students and approximately maybe 45 teaching staff. The kids also never leave, getting to high school 7 in the morning and leaving at 8 or 9 in the evening, so they do like their education. Now that's a lot of time to be at school. Do they have time to actually see their families, given that their parents might also be working quite late hours? Teachers are also there from around 7:30 in the morning till about 8 or 9 at night, so it's quite an action-packed day every day, even at the weekends. What a full-time commitment, huh? Are they working? Sadly, no, they're not. Most of the time they just enjoy their happy hours after about 3 or 4, but they do have time to mingle with the students, so that's always something. You will be asked to leave early, even if you feel that you want to stay on with all the teachers till about 6 or 7, 8 at night. You will, even if you do stay, will be asked to leave. Although they won't say it to you, you will know, leave at 4 or 5. They want their social hour. So I would come to school at around 7:30, 8 in the morning, cold sweat, similarly to now with all the lights under me. Plus, again, it's a job which isn't really that much fun. So for all of you that haven't been here yet, it's really just being in school most of the time. So don't expect to get to see a lot of Japan because you won't be able to. You will be trapped in the education system. Timetable. Some days it will be cancelled, so you will not be doing much. You will be sitting on your own wondering if these Japanese phrases that you have learned will actually be useful. Conversation in the morning, a quick few sentences with the teachers, but it never really evolved to much else. Now, I know if your Japanese skills are a little better, a lot of what they would call the silent treatment. So it does affect quite a lot of people. Now, I know you should really just be chatty, but they might not want to be chatty with you. So do be prepared for things like that. My N4 Japanese got me so far, but even then they will want to keep themselves to themselves as a group. A lot of other ALTs have found they're generally content in being in Japan and leaving at 4 every day and getting on the way they do. Even though I prepared all the lessons and handouts at night, they rarely get used. Frustrating as well, particularly in this high school. The teachers like to take control and make it easy for them as well as for the students, so don't expect to get your way. Or way rather than way, unless you like way, I don't know. Most people get away with sheer personality, but for those of you who might not want to project yourself in a, what I would say is generally compromised way, then you should really try and find your character to get on with the teachers, because if you are not astoundingly the way you should be, or really a little person that just floats around like a hamster, then you should really try and get with it. Some people have got away with sheer personality alone, but this might generate an environment of, well, I don't really care about what I'm doing here, which can work, but I wouldn't suggest you try it. It just seems to be fun, doesn't it? But before you come to Japan wanting to start your life as an ALT, we should probably first grab the meat of the argument. You will never be teaching. Sadly, you will never be teaching. You will never be teaching. Sadly, you will never be teaching. You will only ever be used as an example. Even if you think you are teaching, then remember, you are just an import. You are just really a piece of It's not about what you think it is about. All you do is give the Japanese both an example and perhaps idiosyncrasies that you can bring with you, being that it is your soul from your home country. So perhaps Filipinos might be slightly better at this, but generally there aren't as many Western ALTs in Japan as you may think. Really, the Japanese need an excuse to feel safe using what you can primarily describe as being your culture and language. On the wider scale, Japan need to use elements of your culture. You can think of McDonald's, Wendy's, iMac, advertising, marketing, English branding, English language branding everywhere where it matters. If it doesn't make money, it won't matter as much, but if it makes money, you'll find the English language is extremely useful for the Japanese. So it might not necessarily be what you think it is again. The right to use English in advertising, marketing, it's all about money here, really. The English language, it's not something that the Japanese are really interested in, but if it makes money, that's the reason they use it. It's a branding corporation tactic. It's really about the corporation. Is it about the corporation? It's really about money, marketing, making sure they get those American clients. Whether it's sheerly just gratis points for using it, or maybe it's an Americanization, but my nose is tingling. So it's more of an America-Japan media thing. Anyway, teaching here in Japan, small gains perhaps. Fine, go to all these people, Mr. Transformer, but in the end you will discover the truth. I wouldn't unless I had a way to get out. I just wouldn't teach. And to be honest, I had a lot of time not teaching, which is very, very good if you want to discover more parts of Japan, Tokyo, Osaka, anywhere else. But really, if you're teaching, you will not get to go out much. You'll have your month's holiday, but you'll find even then it's shortened. You'll only have time for about 2 or 3 weeks travel, which might be enough, but I wouldn't know. I don't know, but I don't know. As I've already mentioned, the school wasn't that bad, so it was a good experience. So don't think you'll get placed in somewhere really out in the sticks, so to speak, where you might not enjoy yourself. Or you might be the recluse type. So there you go. You can eat tofu all day and just drive your car and sleep in car parking lots a lot of the time. There you go, do that. Sleep in parking lots all the time. It's good fun. You can save money, just do that. Now, I look happy in the photograph, and generally at the beginning of my experience in this particular high school, I was quite content, although there was a very unsettling feeling in general, given that the practicalities of Japan all mount up after a while. You will acclimatize very quickly, or you'll feel that way, but there is an undercurrent which gradually, as your time in Japan progresses, you'll begin to know and understand as something vastly different. Not that it's bad, but it is perhaps culture shock in a way. You will always really feel like the odd one out, unless you're the type of person that feels they're impressing everybody. So perhaps best to be a doctor or professional or something before you come over, so you don't have to feel that way about nothing. Lots of events where the kids are generally happy doing their things. Very naive, very naive in fact, but is that a good thing? They're not very good at sports at that age. You'd think they would be. Maybe in other schools they were, but this school was a sporting school. This school particularly excelled in sports. Now, I don't know why. That's what drove all of their clients, or rather families, to send their children there, but they're not really good at them. So I don't know how that works out. But they are good singers. Kids have an overarching need to be happy. All the time they want to be happy. The kids have an overarching need to be happy. Sensibilities of the children. Really, they don't have relationships like you or I would. Now, you might say, what are you talking about? Of course they do. But although they do orchestrate themselves as a group, and they're very community-minded, even as children. No girlfriends, no boyfriends, no smoking, no sex, no gangs, no gangbangs. There are only suicides. Suicides. Yes, suicides. They have very French characters, but for the life of me, I don't know where they got them. The school doesn't require the kids to sit a formal entrance exam to either university or one that passes them for high school. So think about that. So again, the onus not being on what the teachers can provide for the kids, but it's really what the kids can do for themselves. Now, going from junior high into high school, it's something different. They need to pass that to be able to get into a high school. But after high school, it's up to the kids. So they need to utilize their teachers' teaching technology. Remember, they can do it on their own if they study after they have graduated from high school and then enter university. So that's another thing to bear in mind. Some kids will latch onto you. No latch, please, because they are latchgate children in a way. They'll forget about you the next day. They will forget about you and they will completely change. Make sure you can operate them just like the Sony camera, because they will be a little bit different day to day. There's a subliminal feeling in most of the schools where you feel that the teachers don't actually want the kids to learn anything. You'll become clairvoyant and knowing when and when not to say anything, which really becomes most of the time because they don't want you to teach. You will just be a voice box. But really, we should see this in perspective. Certain amount of ego on their parts if you have come to their country to teach, because obviously they want Japan to reign supreme. So they really will undermine you and the English language and everything else you do. Although you might feel that you are wanted, it's not really that. The kids also don't want to learn English. There are some shining examples, such as the androgynous males who want to really do well at English, some of the girls with English parents, but the rest, they really don't take to it, and you will find that it's not something that is needed. Perhaps the Japanese government feel it's not live anywhere. It's what is live? Am I live? Shit. Hello, welcome to the Andre Show. But really, crushed papers, they need you to be a show for them. I wish I had known it was so simple. I really just want something to steal the additives from, because they might go a bit funny, so they want to butch up their characters, or they want to improve certain things that they don't want, that they wouldn't want to embarrass themselves with in another country, or they just don't want to feel left out. They really just don't want to feel left out, do they? The teacher's words and instructions are supreme, so when you're in high school, or any other school for that matter, you should remember that. You will make it difficult if you question anything that they tell you to do, so possibly try and avoid it. In my particular scenario, I didn't want to avoid this because it was not within my agency to do so, simply because, having come from a professional background, I really didn't feel that I could understand why they would want you to do things. It's more of a control element. So perhaps if you're younger, naive, and really just wanting to be an ALT and accepting everything they tell you to do, then you should maybe just do that because you want to be in Japan, obviously. But you will make life difficult. But why Japan in the first place? Do you really want to teach? Maybe you just want to have fun, drink some sake, have your own fun, have time to do the things you want to do, to make your own friends. You would have to be naive, whereas in an Aikaiwa it is probably a little easier. Do you want to stay in control? Well, then don't, because it won't work. The teachers were all fantastic, however, aside from one who really didn't like me, and I believe it might be because of sexual tension. Now, I know many of you might not be used to this sexual tension. I frequently have much of it, and it's not as welcome as it should be. But now, the dispatch company I had problems with. Now, given their incompetency and complete uselessness in any professional scenario, remember that. More in the next episode, but Interact were a complete nightmare, and really I feel sorry for all these people that still have to work with them. I know many people are trying to get out, but it is the lowest chain in teaching in Japan if you want to get a visa. So it's difficult to struggle with people who might not have had the benefit of a professional career, and I would say a professional career and experience in other professions. Where, don't fool yourself, being an ALT is not a profession. It is not a profession. Even being in the offices pretending that you are in some way important, it is not a profession. It is a dummy stool job. So be aware. Not that you're trying to escape from being complete failures in your home country, of course, but so ultimately anyone at Interact, I would have been even slightly impressed had they had any professional competency, but unfortunately on most occasions, no. Other dispatch companies are actually great, so it's surprising, but if you have to struggle with professional competency where they're telling you things to do and you know these people have no professional background whatsoever, myself, I could not really understand how they can orchestrate, because they expect everyone to be a naive 20-year-old ultimately. And I know the majority of you will be young 20-somethings that want to get out there and impress and possibly appropriate yourselves in an international spectrum across all of these countries, China I guess included, but really they are hoping that everyone that comes to them is completely incompetent, young, just fresh out of college. So more in the next episode. Some teachers will bear a grudge knowing that if you have been a professional in your home country at some point in your life, then it will feel, to them it feels that they are being undermined because they have worked to become a teacher. Now in Japan it's not particularly difficult to become a teacher, nor is it an unsafe job, because they will get to keep their jobs for most of their lives, where they're never really questioned, etc., etc. So there's no chance, and you'll find this in Japan, for as much professional development as there would be in other countries. They feel a little undermined, perhaps. Professional development there, it's more of a closed circle, so it's not really transparent, as it were. Not as transparent as other countries where there are boards, and of course there's a board in Japan, but it's not necessarily orchestrated through what we would know as a federal or unitary system. Most of the teachers allowed me to do whatever I wanted, which was orchestrating the classroom and teaching. So that was a high. That was really good. It was really good fun. It was really rewarding. I did feel a lot of benefits in the fact I didn't need to listen to them, because I really don't think they know what they're doing most of the time anyway, so there you go. They don't know what to do most of the time anyway, but they are Japanese. They don't know what to do most of the time anyway, but they are Japanese, so there. Is it good? John, tell me, is it good? Is it good? Tell me. Like seriously, actually teaching. Wow, it's something you wouldn't have expected to do. Kids, what to do. Unlike Britain, there are no barriers in doing what you want to do in Japan. And what I mean really is the Japanese community ethic. It's very much group-oriented. And usually it means everyone genuinely does help everyone else. But they won't help you. It's not really a pretension towards a class system, it's more about money. I did make friends with many teachers. But really, myth or no myth, is it allowed or not allowed? Well, really, it's up to yourself. I guess you don't need to listen to your dispatch company. I never did. Everything you read in the dispatch company's guidebook is a lie, really. Being sensible and being quite friendly, open. Being sensible, open, friendly, and having your character is what you should really listen to. Listen to yourself. The guidebook, the Japanese teachers will take over, but as you'll find out in the next episode, there is an inherent difficulty there, because even if the Japanese teachers want you to do something, then there will be disparities between what the dispatch company tell you to do and what the Japanese teachers tell you to do. Now, the Japanese teachers most of the time are right, so you'll find this is one reason why these dispatch companies have no idea what they're doing, nor do the education system, but you will find that the whole thing is really a charade anyway, just for tourism. Next show. Again, as friendly as they seem to be, most teachers will never be as friendly as you think. They will not become your close friends. And being friends, close friends in Japan is quite, I would say, impossible. Now, a lot will disagree, but you will find these relationships are quite short. Even you might have a good relationship with Japan in general, but it is difficult to sustain this relationship unless you have the adequate Japanese skills, even then. Unless you have the language skills, even then it is difficult. It's more of a mechanical procedure. Being personable is firmly within the confines of using a buzzword, perhaps in the morning, during the day, kachiko maimashita. The phrases that you should learn, just learn them. Mataku da yo, mataku da yo. Kids so friendly, but again, the mechanical procedure. Remember, turning them on and off helps. But feel free to develop relationships. It's very much what you have to do. And don't get me wrong, my vision of Japan. My English club worked wonders. They were getting off to a fine start and eventually started entering speech competitions. Now, isn't that wonderful?
Because of my height, I usually put on high-heeled shoes when I go out. With the shoes, I can look taller and my legs look longer instantly.
However, my experience, like a flame in the jungle, could either have ignited a whole forest fire of education, but sadly in this instance was simply something that the teachers could use to warm themselves with. The students also. A lot more time spent in not doing anything more than attending classes, but that's a perk, it really is. So when they say join in Japan, it's really a lot more about emotion, and emotion in Japan is a bad thing. Any sense of real emotion is bad in Japan, so make sure you have a character to bring with you. Feel involved, so they said. My own opinion is that teachers in Japan like the perks of being somebody else. The South Korean mistress, the band member, the Woodstock hippie, the teacher that's always loved history but teaches math, the Christian, teacher cheating on his wife and masturbating all the time, the child molester, the veteran, the to-be dated, the Miss Honeyweather, the music teacher with a sheer hatred for all men, the disc jockey, the physical education teacher who likes all the 5th grade girls and seems to get on with them but is so inept at anything else. The graduate with the frizzy hair who wears bell bottoms. Frustrations just have a cigarette with the principal. They take very warmly to this kind of behavior. Although this is probably something I shouldn't have done. I shouldn't have done it. The kids do spend more time out of class than they do actually in class. They will have activities, sports days, calligraphy, cleaning, tidying, going to shows during the day, going to the theater, community activities. They're really not there, and when they spend their time, they have their own sports clubs after school finishes, which is why they never leave. Their own study time, assemblies. You will find assemblies go on almost 3, 4, 5, 6 times a day at the drop of a hat. Technical college lecturers, because they want them to get out not into professions but into what the Japanese call that thing. Book festivals, not that they read them really. Well, they didn't at this high school. How they could be so highly performing, I don't know. I think they just sift them off into technical colleges, which means they'll become mechanics and various other things. I met some graduates from them. So even if you have been a teacher, I was a part-time teacher at university for a long time, it still won't help you. Get a CELTA, get a TEFL certificate. I got them all in a couple of weeks, but even that, you won't need them. Really, you need to be young, naive, and completely subservient. Not in the sense that you need to be any of these things, but it does vary greatly from high school to elementary to junior high school to eikaiwa. So make sure that you have what it is that you need to know before you get there. So very organized, almost like soldiers in a Meiji dynasty. Like a Meiji dynasty, isn't it? All organized in different colors. Hi. It feels like that. Hi. They sit down so quickly. So very bad at sports at this high school, but so very organized. It's almost military in effect and very comforting. So what else about the school? What else was interesting about the school? What else? Photocopying room, good place to have a chit-chat with the teachers. Unless you're under their control, don't hand out omiyage or do anything silly like that, because really they just want you to be under their control. It won't develop your relationships. They will simply feel that you are trying to overstage them and doing something that they do. Do not be as sociable as you think you should be. It's better just to get on with what you're supposed to do. Hurricane warnings. That's one you don't expect. Tree pruning. I spent an entire day watching the trees being pruned because I had no classes, so that was nice. Okay, please subscribe. Andre's show, coming at you like a from Japan.